Hi everyone, my name is Virginia Dwan, also known as Mandarin Mama. I host a podcast called the Noona Army Podcast, where I discuss the particular aspects and challenges of being a middle-aged female BTS fan. Today my special guest is Chris Wong, and he's a film composer, and I'll let him tell you more about himself.
Hi, I'm Chris Wong. I write music for films, and almost all the films I work on come out in Vietnam, just because those are the directors that I met right after college. And we had a big hit recently called Mat Biek. I think it's currently ranks the second highest grossing film in Vietnam in history. So we're very happy about that. And that's what I do for a living.
So Chris has been in the film industry since at least 2002, and I'm having him react to BTS solely from a musical perspective. And then also in terms of like his expertise of like how it fits to film or an MV if we're also watching an official MV. But mostly I want him to look at like to dissect the music and break down the music, and in certain cases if it fits the like cinematography or if it fits the lyrics. But we're not going to be like examining dancing or like alternate universes, because it's such a rare opportunity for me and Chris to get together that that I want to take advantage of his knowledge. So today we'll be reacting to On. This is their latest title track of their latest album, Map of the Soul 7. And On, and I'll if we have time, maybe I'll show you the song that they wanted to flip around. So this album is like a reboot because it's the 7th year. It's a reboot of the themes that they started off with. So they have a song called No. And so this song is On.
Okay, the reverse of it.
Right,
Okay.
right. So they have a song, their third single I think was called On, or their second title track was called On. No. Sorry. These names confuse me, and it's late. But yeah, that song was all about like kids rebelling against, because it was part of when they were like high school students or whatever, kids rebelling against teachers telling them, or parents telling them they have to have a certain type of dream, they have to get into like the top 3 universities in Seoul, like kill your soul and then make your money and then chase your dreams, right? Which
Okay.
every Asian kid knows that story, right? And so this is about On, and it's about how like talking about the suffering that they've gone through up to this point and how it's all been kind of, they push through it, it's worth it, it's like, and they're going to continue. So this is they have 2 music videos for this, but the one with just like a more performance, but the one we're looking at is their music video. Yeah. So this is less performance and more story. And yes, it does tie into the rest of the Bangtan universe, but he doesn't need to know that. All right, so here we go.
Is he handcuffed here? What's going on here? Oh, okay. The groove feels so upbeat compared to what I was seeing at first.
Yeah.
With all the dead people in the field. What, Noah's Ark reference?
I know, okay. Right? There's a lot of, I'm very curious, because you see so many movies. It's
lots of auto-tune here. Mm-hmm. Okay. that a real snare drum back there? That's unusual for it. Wait,
Here.
let me hear. Okay. I think that's a real snare drum, which in this style of music that's unusual to do these days. Usually they use a synthesized snare. This is getting into like so many different kinds of mythologies, it feels like.
Yes.
Right? Oh, it's scary. There's that snare drum again. This is not where I expected the song to go. Into this, like, very open. He's got range, huh? So were his wrist tied with like a, is that a Crown of Thorns reference?
Yes.
Is that okay.
Yeah. This might be a Beastmaster.
Oh, this is also the same song.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Every time the baby hears this song, he's like, "This is a new song, Mama." I was like, "No, it's the same song." He's like, "No, new song." The production value.
There wasn't really like a midsection rap in this one, was there?
No, all the rapping was more melodic.
Okay, yeah. Well, this is epic, like some kind of 300 or Lord of the Rings kind of stuff here.
Right. So No More Dream was their first single, their debut song, and now it's Dream.
Okay.
So what do you think?
It was really cinematic, but like in almost a... It felt like almost more borrowing from some Western elements and Western imagery from what I'm used to. It's, you know, like in the Fake Love video, which I'm kind of familiar with, right? Some of the things in there that for whatever reason, I perceive as being a Korean aesthetic, or those really like really bold, like blood red color, you know, like really kind of huge colors like that, you know, and here it's a lot more like earth tones and stuff, you know, and the song also, like the beat surprised me. It wasn't like kind of your standard hip hop or R&B beats in there, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost feels like a song that was adapted or written for a movie to me. Is what it feels like. You know, like when someone's making a movie and then they go to a famous band and say, "Hey, will you write a song for this movie?" And then like the song usually never sounds exactly like something that would be on one of their albums. It sounds like something they wrote for a movie. That's kind of what this sounds like to me.
It's like Panic at the Disco's version of Into the Unknown.
I guess. You know?
And you're like, this is weird.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So, I don't want to show you the documentary because it's like 20 minutes.
Okay.
But they hired a gospel choir to sing it. And then also they used the UCLA marching band drumline.
Okay, so
for the brass,
okay.
and the. So if you watch the if you want, we can watch the performance video where you can see that. I don't know if you want to. I mean, we might as well, I guess. But I mean, just musically. I mean, it's the same version, so I don't really see the point in watching it, other than if you want to see hot men dancing, which I am always for.
There's nothing wrong with that,
right? But yeah. So musically, you mentioned that solo was very surprising to you.
Mm-hmm.
He has range.
Yeah. There's like the soprano register up there, right?
Well, I also found it very interesting, like when there's a lot of gospel overtones, and then when he's going down into the water, again, it's very gospel oriented. That's part of the sound, and it's like he's being baptized. I feel like I felt that way when I saw it. I was like, oh, is he getting, or Joshua crossing the Jordan River, kind of like that. But it's just it's a mishmash of every dystopian fantasy ever, right? Like Maze Runner, all these things, right? Like so.
So then, how much? Okay, just because this video is so far out there with all the combinations of different mythologies and everything that they're putting into, how interactive are, and do you know the answer to this question? Like how interactive are the BTS members themselves in like the ideas that will go into the video? Like what is their collaboration with the video director like?
I have no idea. I honestly think that's not their job. Right, like I think fans either
they hire the video director,
right,
to,
like
to just go at
Lupins.
it.
I think it's Lupins or Lumpins. I forget. It's like their go-to people. But like, I feel like sometimes fans give them too much credit for the mythology, when really that's just like a great marketing plan. Like, so all their songs, all their albums have very connecting themes, and they call back. And so like a lot of the things you see now, they've hinted at for like years.
Okay.
So it's
they're putting like Easter eggs in there.
Oh, tons. Okay. Like if you want to go down the like BTS rabbit hole, of,
it's
like,
a deep hole.
It's a like yeah.
You may never come out of
like
it.
None. Like, and I actually don't. There's a whole alternate universe. There's a whole like story about time travel, like constant like death, suicide, like so many like triggered things. Like so I can't actually dig deep into it because it is very bad for my mental health.
You know, this is something that I kind of find fascinating, both about this song and video, and then one of Suga's songs that you showed me earlier is that there's they go to some dark places sometimes in this material, and I feel like you know, at least the boy bands I'm familiar with in the United States,
Right.
the classic ones, you know, from the early
New Kids on the Block would
yeah.
never and could never.
Yeah,
right?
and the same thing with like NSYNC and right. It's like
Well, I mean,
their
NSYNC
music
went
could
dark
never-
but gone. That's a great song.
but not talking about things like suicide and stuff
Right.
like that, right? And that's interesting that to me that you know that BTS exists in a pop culture context in South Korea where they can do that, you know, and
Well, I don't think it's actually common even in South Korea, because I would
so
say
this is kind of a
yeah, because I would say that the majority of K-pop
uh-huh,
is like American pop in the sense, not the sound, but like
uh-huh.
talks about love. Why don't you love me? Unrequited love, or it's like all about swag
Sure,
and
sure.
stuff like right, like, and not that there's
so-
anything wrong with that.
So they're unique in this sense.
I
is
feel
what
like they're
you're
very.
saying, yeah.
Not
Uh-huh.
saying that there aren't other artists,
Sure.
because I feel like Epic High is a huge hip hop group that I feel like just like Tiger. Like there's a lot of. There are lots of musicians that
Mm-hmm.
do this, but I would say that the majority of music is not like this.
Uh-huh.
They have a lot of creative control, because when the Bang Si-hyuk, he's the guy who I told you was a famous ballad writer,
Uh-huh.
and he started this company.
Yeah.
When he formed this group, he told them he wanted them to tell their stories. So that's why when they first started off, it was all about school, unrequited love in terms of like high school, like a little boy, like a teenage boy asking why a
Sure.
girl won't go out with him.
Things you might expect
Right?
from a group like that.
Because
yeah,
they're like
yeah.
15, 16 years
Mhm.
old. But then they went through a youth phase, and the 花样年华, the most beautiful moment in life, right? And that talks. It's about coming of age, and like the thing they talk about wanting to be young forever, or like they start grappling with things like, you know, what does it mean to, because they started seeing success. Like, what does it mean to be successful? And then they go through another arc, the love yourself arc, and it starts off with. It's very interesting because it starts off with her, tear, and then answer, and then it's like, so it starts off with like these like euphoric songs, like, oh, we're destined to be together, but then and you think it's like people play these songs at weddings. It's like, oh, it's not a coincidence, we were meant to be. But then that's just the opening act, right? The second act is all about, actually, it's fake love. You never knew me. I never showed you my true self. If I showed you my true self, I'm a monster. You would hate me. How you don't love me, but how can you love me? I've never shown you my true self. And it's all about like just like identity and angst and all these things, right? And then some of it is also in parallel to like their journey as idols, because Suga and RM came from underground hip hop and they were told they were sold out, you know, all these things. Like, are we rappers? Are we idols? Like, are we artists? Like, what are we? Are we too Western? Are we too Korean? Like, what does this mean? What does our success mean? Who are we as people? And so they kind of started debating that, like discussing that. And then the answer, the final arc of the trilogy is, hey, you can't love anybody unless if you love yourself. Like, and like the answer to love is to love yourself first. That you have to accept who you are. And so then they have this song where it's like, oh, you can call me artist, you can call me idol, whatever. These are all me. I contain multitudes. Mm-hmm. So that ended that. And then now they've started, I think last year they started Map of the Soul, like Carl Jung's Map of the Soul, like psychology. So like, that's why the first one was Persona, and then Ego, and Persona, Shadow, Ego, and then I think it ends in like Anima. And so originally this album 7 was supposed to be 2 albums, Ego, Shadow and Ego. And so you'll see like on this full album they have intro song is Persona, the interlude is Shadow, and the outro song is Ego. So they have like these whole themes, and this album is a lot again of like revisiting their past themes and how they're dealing with their success. So a lot of their songs are like, shit, now we're really fucking successful. What does that mean? And why did no one tell me it was so lonely? Why did no one tell me this was so hard? And
I have a question that's maybe not specific to this video, but I'm just curious. As BTS has basically become a global phenomenon, and have they, as the band, written music about that experience, and then also
Yes, I mean the majority of their songs are about
yeah, and then also how is their global popularity being received in Korea by their fans, and are Koreans proud of this, or are they so they kind of they're celebrating that all the world is watching this now, and
I mean, obviously it'd be like a little erroneous to say like every Korean is proud of them,
Sure.
but like kind of the way we're proud of our astronauts or something like that.
Okay.
Like that was a really bad example. I apologize.
No, but I think Americans sometimes
think we're like
there are things that we're proud of exporting, and then there are things that we're like, oh, I'm sorry we said that to you, or it's like sometimes. I mean, the more self-aware Americans, I think we know that we're not always a good influence to the world.
Right.
So
like we're good. We're okay when it comes to like.
So I'm just wondering, like that.
No,
That's kind of
I would say in general,
yeah.
they're the pride of Korea. They received the presidential. I think. I guess it would be equivalent to like the Presidential Medal of Honor for like arts, and they're like one of the youngest people ever to receive it. Like the first order, not like the highest order, but like, and they were recognized as just being a huge reason. Like they contribute like almost, I forget, it was like 5 or 6 billion to the South Korea's GDP. That's like a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? Like for tourism and like concerts and stuff. Like
sure.
Yeah, so I think in general people are very proud of them. Because it's like they spoke at the UN. Right? Like how many pop stars speak at the UN, for God's sakes? And like everything out of them is just so humble, and they're so gracious. Like I feel like I really respect them as artists, because in the sense of like, oh yes, they're very creative, and they always acknowledge their help. Like in their liner notes, like their acknowledgements, they thank the makeup people, right? Like they're like, they are very aware that, like Suga even says, he's like, I'm pretty much useless other than making music. Like if I didn't make music, I would be a useless person, because I don't know how to do anything else. And the reason like he can just focus on music is because people take care of his everything else. Right? Like they acknowledge the fact that the costuming and but all these things that they don't really have is like, so when you say like there's overall, a lot of people give them, I feel like sometimes people give them more credit than they deserve, in the sense of like, I'm pretty sure they did not come up with the Bangtan universe. Right? Like does that mean that they didn't contribute to things, or like didn't take that into account? No, I don't think that. It's impossible for like people to do all those things, right? Like no one's expecting the director of a movie to also make its commercials. Yeah. Right? Like that's a ridiculous. Or then to also be responsible for setting up interviews with actors. That's not how companies work, right? That's not how these things work, right? Like, so I don't know if I actually answered your question, but they do create a lot of their own music, and write a lot of their own music. Like RM especially writes the majority of their lyrics. And then Suga, the rappers write more of the lyrics because they're their roots are in hip hop. The words. Not all K-pop. Most K-pop rappers do not write their own lyrics.
Really?
Yes, because it's just a style. Like it's different than, I feel like, hip hop here, where you're like, part of it is that you write your own lyrics. But it's more and more so that's not the case anymore. Right? Like so I mean so some people think that's not as legit. Some people are like, it's just music, who cares, right? Like Taylor Swift doesn't write everything. Right? Like people, like I feel like sometimes people think that if you don't make it yourself, it's not as legit. But I make a lot of crap. Just because I created it doesn't mean it's good. Right? Like just because
Hopefully what we're doing right now is better than crap.
But. Well, I mean, it's us. It's awesome. But you know what I mean? Like, just because you're a good singer doesn't necessarily mean you can write.
No, there certainly any kind of success on this level, there are many people behind it.
They have at least a team of at least of 100 helping them.
It's never one person.
No.
Right.
And I feel like they're very thankful and they're very aware of that. And they always thank fans first. And then whenever they always thank ARMY. They're very humble. And like, but the other thing is they're very expansive. Like they're very generous. Like I feel like sometimes as artists we feel like, oh, there's only a limited pie. Right? Like you feel like, oh, especially Asians, like, or like minorities, you always feel like there's only, like if there's a group of 10, then only one person is Asian. And maybe one person's black. And then like, or no, if one person's Asian, then maybe there's no black people. Then the other 9 people are white, right? Like,
sure.
When really it's not like that. I mean, it shouldn't be like that. And BTS is very secure. So they're constantly like talking about other people's art. Or they're constantly thinking, or not, you know what I mean? Like it's like the way they see things isn't like, they don't view things from a point of view of lack. They see that their platform is to promote, not necessarily free promotion, but they're not afraid of someone else's, like someone else's success doesn't mean their downfall.
It doesn't threaten them.
Right? You know, because there's more than one pie. Right? So I find that very interesting. You know. Anyway, we talked a long time about something that was not about On. And you don't have to watch it. But please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time.